right? When there were a number of diplomatic overtures to Iran all happening at the same time. Just take us back there.
Yeah, it was a busy weekend, David. The Iran nuclear deal was coming into implementation. The United States and Iran agreed to a prisoner swap, and the two countries settled a decades-old financial dispute, which stemmed from some weapons the Shah of Iran had paid for, but which were never delivered by the U.S. after the Iranian Revolution. To settle that dispute, the United States agreed to refund the payment price plus interest, which totaled some $1.7 billion.
But all of this unrelated, we were told, right?
That's right. At the time, and pretty much ever since, the White House has said even though these deals came together at the same time, they were negotiated separately, and that there was no connection between the payment and the prisoners. Now, that's been called into question over the last couple of weeks, as predominantly the Wall Street Journal reported, on the very coincidental timing of the exchange. And yesterday, for the first time, the State Department conceded that the U.S. held on to the $400 million cash payment, that was sort of a down payment on the financial settlement, until the American prisoners were safely out of Tehran. Associated Press reporter Brad Clapper pressed the State Department spokesman John Kirby about that, saying it seemed to suggest a closer link between the two than had previously been disclosed.
You said they would not get the money until they were released. Quid quo.
Thank you for the Latin explanation.
Now, one might say this was really more of a quo pro quid because the prisoners were released first and then the money was handed over. But either way, critics say it looks like a ransom payment.
Well, Scott, remind us if it was a ransom payment. Why would that be such a big deal?
Well, for years, the United States government has adopted a policy of not paying ransom, and sometimes at a short-term cost. I mean, remember that we've had American hostages, for example, murdered by ISIS, even as hostages from other countries were freed in exchange for a ransom. Nevertheless, the Obama administration stands by its no ransom policy, and the president himself said just 2 weeks ago that the $400 million sent to Iran was not a payment for the prisoners.
We do not pay ransom. We didn't here, and we won't in the future. Precisely because if we did, then we would start encouraging Americans to be targeted, much in the same way that some countries that do pay ransom end up having a lot more of their citizens being taken by various groups.
The administration insists that it would have sent that $400 million to Iran eventually anyway as part of the larger financial settlement, but Kirby says the U.S. held on to the money temporarily as a source of leverage until those Americans were freed.
And I gather the president's skeptics not buying this.
No, Republicans have been very critical. Nebraska Senator Ben Sass says if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. He and other GOP critics say the money was a ransom. There have been calls for congressional hearings. And the criticism is especially strong from those who are opposed to the Iran nuclear deal, which of course slowed Iran's ability to develop nuclear weapons in exchange for the relaxing of economic sanctions.
Okay, NPR's Scott Horsley. Thanks a lot, Scott.
You bet.
Hillary Clinton often walks a fine line when she talks about the issue of policing. In speeches, she tried to validate the concerns of groups like Black Lives Matter, while also dodging criticism from Donald Trump, who accuses her of being anti-police. NPR's Sarah McHammond has more from New York City, where yesterday Clinton met with law enforcement leaders. As she opened up the meeting with police chiefs from departments around the country, Hillary Clinton offered gratitude.
They represent officers who get up every day, put on their uniforms, kiss their families goodbye, and risk their lives on behalf of our communities.
During the brief part of the meeting that was open to reporters, Clinton referenced both Dallas, where 5 police officers were shot and killed in July, and Baton Rouge, where that same week, police fatally shot Alton Sterling, a 37-year-old black man, while he was on the ground. Clinton said there's a lot of work to do to repair trust between communities and police.
We need to work together to bridge our divides, not stoke even more divisiveness.
Clinton struck a similar theme earlier this week in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. While campaigning before a largely white audience in Scranton on Monday, Clinton mentioned the protests in Milwaukee, which broke out after police shot and killed a black man there last weekend.
Look at what's happening in Milwaukee right now. We've got urgent work to do to rebuild trust between police and communities and get back to the fundamental principle: everyone should have respect for the law and be respected by the law.
Clinton's Republican rival Donald Trump also talked about Milwaukee this week. During a campaign stop in the nearby suburb of West Bend, Trump accused Clinton of being anti-police because of her calls for reform of the criminal justice system.
She is against the police, believe me. You know it and I know it, and guess what? She knows it.
Critics on the left have also accused Clinton of being too slow to address concerns about aggressive policing from African Americans and their allies, a key part of the Democratic base. Clinton herself has acknowledged that tension.
I know that just by saying all these things together, I may upset some people.
Speaking to the African Methodist Episcopal Church General Conference on the day after the Dallas police shootings, Clinton called for national guidelines on the use of deadly force and better training for police.
I'm talking about criminal justice reform the day after a horrific attack on police officers. I'm talking about courageous, honorable police officers just a few days after officer-involved killings in Louisiana and Minnesota.
While Hillary Clinton tries to navigate those conversations, Donald Trump is walking another line. This week he's been praising police while promising to bring law and order to African American neighborhoods. So far, though, he's making that case in front of mostly white audiences. Sarah McCammon, NPR News, New York.
Last month was the hottest July ever recorded around the world. Later today on All Things Considered, we take you to the Arctic, where sea ice looks to be at an all-time low. This is NPR News.
This is 91.3 WLRN. I'm Wanda Miles. Great to be with you on a Friday. It's August 19th, 82 degrees now.
This election year, voters are hearing starkly different visions for the country.
I am the law and order candidate.
Don't believe anyone who says, I alone can fix
We
it.
cannot afford
We are
to be so
stronger
politically
together.
correct.
It's your choice. News and analysis you need to make that choice is on this station. Listen every day.
Are we taking Zika seriously? One South Florida politician doesn't think so. We'll find out more in just a few minutes. That's coming up in WLRN Miami Herald News. This is Morning Edition. It's 8:42.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Dave Mattingly. The Clinton Foundation says changes are planned if Hillary Clinton wins the White House in November. As NPR's Peter Overby reports, they would include former President Bill Clinton leaving the foundation's board and an end to foreign and corporate contributions.
Giving up the foreign money especially would knock a big hole in the foundation's budget. But the foreign and the corporate money have caused controversies, and controversies are what the foundation would want to avoid if Hillary Clinton is in the White House.
Some public school systems in Louisiana say they're pushing back the beginning of classes until after Labor Day because of the state's record flooding. An estimated 40,000 homes are damaged, and some areas are still waiting for power to be fully restored. Eileen Fleming with member station WWNO has more.
Governor John Bell Edwards says initial search and rescue operations were focused on responding to people who reported they were in trouble. More than 30,000 people have been rescued. Thousands remain in shelters. Officials are now deciding what kind of temporary housing would best suit the flooded disaster area that stretches over 20 parishes.
More than 86,000 people are seeking help from the federal government. Federal investigators say one loose bolt was what brought down a helicopter in central Florida last year. The fiery crash killed all 3 people aboard. I'm Dave Mattingly, NPR News in Washington.
This is WLRN News. I'm Tom Hudson.
If Zika were the name of a hurricane instead of the name of a virus, we would be taking it as seriously as we should be taking it now.
That's Ted Deutsch. He represents parts of Broward and Palm Beach counties in Congress. He was among the Democrats voting against a Zika bill in June that passed out of the House. Democrats did not support it, though, because of other unrelated issues included in the legislation. Since then, Zika has been transmitted locally in Miami-Dade County, and the Florida Department of Health is investigating a potential case in Palm Beach County, and Congress remains in recess.
Perhaps we can move my colleagues by having a session of Congress meet down here. And the fact is, it makes no sense that we're still in our districts when there is this public health issue that we need to deal with. We should have been able in the House to bring it up and pass a clean spending bill to address what is a real concern and to do it before it becomes a major crisis.
It wasn't a clean bill that you were presented with. It was a bill that had a number of different other provisions on there, unrelated to Zika. There was Planned Parenthood issues. There was affordable
Confederate flags and veteran cemeteries.
Right. Do you anticipate getting a clean bill?
There is bipartisan support, both in the Senate and in the House, in our Florida delegation for full funding, $1.9 billion, which, by the way, wasn't the number that the president came up with. It's the number that the experts say is necessary to combat Zika. And if we're going to show the American people that we can get anything done, certainly we should be able to pass a public health measure in a clean way that responds to the needs of the American people.
Are there provisions that you and your Democratic colleagues will be able to tolerate to get Zika funding going on?
This shouldn't be a debate about extraneous provisions, political statements that are being made. We should, and this is what I hear over and over at town hall meetings, discussions throughout the district, we should be taking up a bill to deal with Zika. And a Zika bill is not a place to launch an attack on Planned Parenthood. It's not a Zika bill is not a place to make the claim that Confederate flags belong in veteran cemeteries. And this is, if you think about it, it's crazy that the only way that Congress would be able to act is to add all of these riders to a bill that's about something this important. So it's not a question of what should we accept. We shouldn't accept anything other than a bill to address this public health issue right now.
It's not exclusive to Zika to find these other kind of unrelated issues tucked into the bill, but it is emblematic of the relationship and the partisan environment that exists on Capitol Hill. Let me ask you about the schedule here, Congressman. Prior to leaving Washington for the recess before Election Day, you've got what, maybe a 6-week window in order to get Zika funding through both chambers, a clean version of Zika funding. Is that possible?
Yes. Is it possible? Yes, I believe it's possible.
Is it probable?
I really think that with the growing attention and the increase in the number of cases and the fact that there is a campaign, a political campaign underway, this is not an issue that Speaker Ryan wants to travel around the country to the districts of his Republican members and have to defend their inaction. I don't think that the Speaker wants to come down here to Dade County, to Miami-Dade County, and to show up to support my friend Ileana or Representative Corbello and have to explain to their constituents in front of two members who are on record saying that we need to do something, have to explain why he's refused to do it. And I think that kind of pressure is what's going to lead us to get something done.
Two Republican members of Congress from Miami-Dade County, Congresswoman Ileana Ross-Layton, a Republican, and Congressman Carlos Corbello, also a Republican member. Representative Ted Deutsch from Palm Beach and Broward County. Nice to see you, Congressman. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Anytime. Thanks, Tom.
And this is WLRN News. I'm Tom Hudson.
Support for WLRN Miami Herald News provided by the Litowitz Foundation, supporting the highest quality programming to enlighten the public on important issues since 2004.
Trump, does he love TV even more than the Oval Office?
When you can say something on television, you reach everybody at one time. It's something awfully nice. You call somebody a certain name and everybody hears it at one time.
Just look at the new names on his campaign staff. Bannon, Ailes, and Kellyanne Conway. Look them up. Next time on The Takeaway from WNYC and PRI, Public Radio International.
The Takeaway this morning at 9 o'clock.
Much like Hollywood's Oscars, the Children's Trust's Champions for Children Award ceremony is a highly anticipated event within Miami-Dade's growing community of child advocates. You can join the Children's Trust at this free signature event at the Adrian Arch Center for the Performing Arts on August 25th at 4 p.m. to honor individuals and programs that have reached the highest levels of excellence in direct service and public policy. Information about this year's honorees and how to reserve your seat at the celebration is at thechildrenstrust.org or the Arch Center box office.
Florida Atlantic University offers a new 2-year Master of Accounting with a concentration in professional accounting designed for future CPAs. Courses offered online via live web video conference or on campus are open to all majors and start end of August. GMAT is not required to apply. Information at professionalaccounting.fau.edu or 855-JOIN-FAU.
We're funded by listeners like you and by the Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital Department of Orthopedic Surgery, where the largest group of fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeons in Florida specializes in treating spinal disorders, neuromuscular disorders, sports injuries, broken bones, and more. They help kids get back to enjoying their active childhoods. When it matters most, you can trust Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital. Learn more at jdch.com.
Support for NPR comes from NPR member stations and from the Wallace Foundation, a source of ideas for improving education and enrichment for children, both in and out of school. More information is available at wallacefoundation.org. From the George Lucas Educational Foundation, creator of Edutopia, celebrating 25 years of showcasing what works in K-12 education. Learn more at edutopia.org. And from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org.
Tourism, trade, technology, fashion, finance, and healthcare. South Florida's economy is as diverse as the people making the money decisions making it move. I'm Tom Hudson. The Sunshine Economy returns to WLRN on Mondays beginning in September. Made possible by Kaufman Rossi.
Sunshine and clouds today. Our high 89, a low of 78 later tonight. 82 degrees now. It's 8:51. Controversy over big money has the Clinton family making a major change.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by ADT, helping protect what matters most for over 140 years. The ADT yard sign is more than a sign. It's a line in the sand. Visit ADT.com. And by Zillow, where users can discover millions of homes for sale and for rent, from modern apartments to historic homes. Zillow, whatever home means to you, we'll help you find it.
From Marketplace in New York, I'm Mark Garrison in for David Brancaccio. The Clinton Foundation promises a fundraising overhaul and that Bill Clinton will resign from the board if Hillary Clinton wins the White House. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer joins us live from Washington. Nancy, remind us about what the foundation does generally and explain how it's promising to change.
Well, Mark, it's a charity. It raises money for things like fighting disease, poverty, and addressing climate change. As you mentioned, Bill Clinton would step down if his wife were elected president. The foundation confirmed that to me and also told me that Bill Clinton would stop raising money for it if his wife were elected. Also, the foundation would only accept contributions from U.S. citizens. It wouldn't accept any more foreign contributions. It wouldn't take money from foreign or domestic corporations or corporate charities. But regardless of who wins the presidential election, the foundation also says it's going to stop holding its annual Clinton Global Initiative meeting.
Now explain the controversy and why the foundation is making these moves.
Well, there's been a lot of criticism from Republicans on various contributions to the foundation. They say the foundation is a conflict of interest. The Wall Street Journal has reported 60 companies lobbying the State Department gave more than $26 million to the foundation while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State.
So these are big potential changes if Hillary Clinton does win the White House, but will they satisfy the critics?
Hard to say. The foundation has promised changes before, then been accused of backtracking. When Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, the foundation agreed to prohibit or curtail foreign donations. The Journal says the foundation broke the agreement, at one point accepting $500,000 from the government of Algeria for earthquake relief for Haiti in 2010.
Okay, Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And let's do the numbers. Stocks are down a bit in global trading. In the UK, shares are down 0.1%. In Germany, stocks are down 0.6%. Asian markets closed mostly up. Starting next month, new T-Mobile customers will encounter something unusual. Just one wireless plan to choose from, with no cap on data. AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint are also offering new plans with features like unlimited, or at least cheaper data. Sally Herships reports on the open warfare between carriers and whether it could mean a better phone deal for you.
Yesterday morning, there was a fight, but it was the kind that you do not want to break up.
At 9 o'clock, John Ledger announced his new price plan.
John Ledger is CEO of T-Mobile. Roger Entner is a telecom analyst.
Not even 45 minutes later, Sprint responded with an even better price plan.
Entner says the average revenue per wireless customer is slowly dropping, so competition between phone carriers is getting intense, and they're offering all these great-seeming features. But really, they sound like really great deals when you look at the fine print for consumers. Are they?
You know, for the consumers who run out of wireless data, this is a good deal.
Jeff Kagan is a wireless industry analyst.
For customers who don't run out of wireless data, it may or may not be.
Kagan says it depends how much you're spending on your current plan. And as for truly unlimited data,
there's no such thing as a real unlimited plan.
Dream on. You won't stop getting data, but at a certain point, it'll be a little slower. I'm Sally Herships for Marketplace.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by LegalZoom, resources to help protect intellectual property, including trademark, copyrights, patents, and independent attorney consultations. Legal help is at LegalZoom.com. And by the Candida Fund, working to advance individual dignity and sustainable communities through investments in transformative leaders and ideas. CandidaFund.org.
Our collective hunger for guacamole